Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you for coming to this conference. The economic crisis hit everybody by surprise. And there were a lot of surprises also connected for us, for our institute, connected to the crisis, because we felt that there was among politicians a new uncertainty about how the world develops, how our economies develop, and there was a new thoughtfulness and readiness to listen to us, to listen to environmental experts, to experts about sustainable development, and a new form of dialogue. And that was new to us, that the belief in the market was seriously shaken. Politicians all around the world realized suddenly that the market by itself would not solve the crisis. It would maybe be the root cause of our problems that we currently have. The way we generate income, the way we produce goods is maybe not appropriate anymore, and we need to change fundamentally, to shift fundamentally. And there was a new readiness to talk about the role of the state. So if the market doesn't solve the problems, maybe it's now time for the rediscovery of policy making. And there was a new awareness of this need of political steering of our economy. And this discussion led to what has been referred to as a Green New Deal, based on the idea that emerged during the 1930s that a new deal needs to be broken between the state and the economy, and that we need state interventions in order to relaunch the economy and to create jobs and to steer the economy in the right direction. What is new about the New Deal, which is supposedly green, is that we think that the New Deal should not only be steered in the direction of fueling consumption, because the increased consumption of material goods and of energy is a problem in itself, and it generates a number of ecological problems. So the New Deal has to be shaped in a different way. And we were asked by the Green European Foundation to collect ideas for a Green New Deal in Europe, and you can download the study on a Green New Deal in Europe at the website of the Green European Foundation. And I will briefly introduce you to the main ideas that we developed in that study. So the Green European Foundation asked us to develop ideas, measures which could be implemented during the current election period. They wanted ideas that would break up unsustainable structures that we have at the moment, and ideas that would build up new sustainable structures. And that the new measures that would be launched would be in the right direction by creating jobs in the short term and economic stimulus, but also be in the right direction in the long term. And when we started to develop these ideas, we asked ourselves, well, what is in for the environment when we look at all the different recovery plans that have been launched around the world? And we will see that here around the world, there are a number of recovery plans which have been launched. Excuse me, I need some water. So governments were desperate. They invested in the economy, took large chunks of money and spent. And the largest investment recovery program was launched by the United States. And in there we also saw that there was a considerable amount of green investments. About 10% of the investments were green. And then, to our surprise, the second largest program was launched by China with the volume of about €500 billion and with green investments of about 40%. And then we had also Japan, and within Europe we had also a number of governments spending on going green in their recovery plans. We see, for example, here Germany with a total recovery program of 80 billion euro, and with about 10% of that money being spent in green investments. Here below there you can see Italy with an investment program of about the same size as the German program, but with about 10 times smaller green spending. This is maybe also one of the reasons why I'm here, that in Italy we maybe don't have this awareness yet. But the most interesting message for us was when we look at the European spending in comparison with China and the US, or with South Korea, that Europe is not the front runner anymore. Especially if we look at the absolute volumes of investment programs, we could say the new green superpower is not Europe anymore, it's China, with a green investment program which is by far much larger than the European or the American program combined. It's also interesting, and an interesting take-home message is that green is not anymore sort of nice to have. It usually is, in the more advanced programs, it's an essential part of green, of recovery programs, of economic recovery programs. Now, how could we define a Green New Deal? And we based our definition on the OECD and Eurostat definition of eco-industries, and we said that a Green New Deal is a targeted attempt to invest in activities which produce goods and services to measure, prevent, limit, minimize, or correct environmental damage to water, air, and soil, as well as problems related to waste, noise, and ecosystems. This includes innovation in cleaner technologies, products, and services that reduce environmental risks and minimize pollution and resource use. And if we take this definition and we look a bit around and ask ourselves, is it really worthwhile spending in a Green New Deal, then we have collected some figures which might give you some indication whether this makes sense. We have an estimated global market volume today of about €1 trillion, which constitutes the green market, the eco-industries worldwide. We expect that this global market will double by the year 2020. So we will have a 100% increase during the next 10 years. Currently, the European share of this global turnover is about a quarter of the world market, so around 260 billion euro. And the number of jobs that have been created in Europe in 2004 were about 3.4 million jobs in total. This is a very low estimate, a very conservative estimate based on the traditional statistical definition of eco-industries, which is probably not appropriate anymore. In Germany alone, we have estimated in 2004 about 1.4 million jobs in that area, and we managed to increase the share of the green share of employment in the total number of jobs to about 4.5%. So this is the largest share in Europe, and as you can see here from the numbers, about half of the total number of jobs are created in Germany, and the second largest green industry is based in France. And here we said, well, these investments need to be targeted. We have experience in Germany that it makes sense to really think about where the green investments should take place, what is really important for society. So we need to ask ourselves, if it is targeted investments in green industry, how should it be targeted to stimulate eco-innovation? And we think the long-term orientation should be the increase of energy and material productivity. So we need to increase our resource productivity. Why is that so? It's because Europe is a continent which does not have many resources. We depend, when we use energy, we depend on countries like Saudi Arabia, and we currently give a large share of our income that we generate, we give this away to countries in the Near East. Economically, this is not a very desirable situation. It would be much better if that money stays in Europe to create other kinds of jobs. So we think we need to decouple our economic development from the resource use, from the use of material. And